Heidi ho, good neighbors. What's going on? It's Phil Russert and the Creatorcon Q&A. We are back with a special episode, back from hiatus, I guess you could say. And we're going to hang out and talk with a really cool indie publisher, an editor, and all-around cool guy. And he's a fellow Irishman. Anyway, um, we're going to talk about his new campaign on Kickstarter. We're going to talk about his publishing company. We're going to talk about his appearance at San Diego Comic-Con. We're going to talk about his underwear size, whatever you want to talk about. We're going to talk about it, and it's going to be great. Before we do, I just want to remind everybody tomorrow night we have the Legendary Illustrations live art show that we always do live drawings with Will Clayton and Rod Ramos, Rodimus Prime Ramos. We will be on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Friday, I will have the legendary writer Chuck Dixon on for Creatorcon Q&A. I think it's episode 130. So come check that out. But anyway, we are here today. So I'm going to ask you to share this out. And I'm going to ask you to give my guests some love because you know what? We know how it is to struggle as indie creators and indie publishers. And we need all the love we can get because, you guys would rather spend money on crappy comics from big names instead of good comics from little names. But anyway, having said that, without further ado, we have tonight publisher, editor, all-around cool guy, Committed Comics, Tom Doherty.
Hello, Phil.
What's going on?
Just living the good life. Panicking before San Diego, that's all. Just pure panic, just terror.
Yeah. I dye my hair black now because it all went gray. Actually, my hair all went gray like that. I'm sharing this out, by the way.
Cool.
I'm going to ask everybody to please do the same.
Yes.
Because, that's what we do. So thanks for coming on. You and I talked briefly. I was looking at the campaign, and it looks really good. The story looks interesting. Greg Johnston, what's going on? And I know the hard work that goes into being a publisher.
Yeah.
On this level, you're working hard for the respect and the trust of the fan base while trying to promote this story that you have total faith in.
Yeah.
Sorry about the train. It is
the
windows open.
Look, the train's got to go somewhere, so.
Well, this train is going far, and you better jump on board because Doherty is in the house.
I love the fellow Irishman. I'm sure that's going to confuse some people when they watch this. They're going to be like, really?
Yeah.
Yes. I'm from the Asian Irish side of the country,
Yeah, we have beer and dumplings.
That actually sounds like a good idea. Lunch tomorrow.
So, you are the owner and of your publishing company, Committed Comics.
Yes. Yep.
So let's go back and give us a little backstory on where did you come up with the concept of Committed Comics and how did you structure your business model?
So pretty much what it was is back in the mid 90s, if anyone's been a comic fan for a long period of time, we were all well aware that the mid 90s were not good times for comics. Marvel was in the process of going bankrupt. There was, other than like Image and 92, that was probably the only saving grace of that time frame, right. And then very quickly early Image started to go downhill. I always had friends in the comic book industry. I was always interested in comics. I was always a collector. I was always a reader. And I was talking with a bunch of friends of mine one night back in 99, and we were just, kvetching about how bad the industry has gotten. And one of my roommates at the time...
Did you know how bad it would go from there?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we thought we were at the bottom. Surprise! And then my roommate literally looked over and he was like, look, either, shit or get off the pot. He's like, do something or shut up, And so me and my friend Alex were kind of like, hey, we're stupid. We know people. Let's make a comic book company. And at the time I was a manager of a retail store in Westchester, New York, where I grew up, which is no longer there, unfortunately. Alternate Realities. It was there for, I think, almost 40 years.
Oh, wow.
It was there for a long period of time. Yeah. I think Steve Odo, the owner, just, after a period of time, he was like, look, I've done this long enough. I've seen the cycle, of store lives 4 or 5 times.
He went out on his own, right?
Yeah. No, he made the decision himself. And so, So yeah, it was one of those things. I was like, okay, yeah, I can do this. I know enough people, And me and Alex started the company, and we found a whole bunch of different artists and writers. We went to San Diego, got a booth in '99. That's when you actually could buy a booth. You could actually still buy tickets, within that same calendar month,
I know,
uh,
man. I
and
know.
and we did that. And we found a whole bunch of talent, and then we realized how difficult it was to do a comic book company. And 70% of the
Insanely
people,
difficult.
70% of the people who were with us, they rotated out. We found new people, we found additional people, and then eventually we started kind of getting to a groove of getting some actual work out there. And just kept going with it and just kept trudging along. We've been going at this now for almost, what's this, 22 years now, I think, something in that range. We took
Wow.
a year off in the mid 2000s, kind of to restructure the whole company, because we were kind of all over the
Right.
place. We were doing individual issues, and we wanted to do graphic novels, and then the whole Diamond Heroes World Capital collaboration, like that completely all affected the way the entire industry was run.
Right.
Right as we got in, pretty much was the era of Diamond, like just being the only game in town.
And wow, how things have changed.
Yes, yep. So, which is very funny, because I talk to retailers now when I go on travels and when I visit stores, and they're all like, "Yeah, we have multiple distributors," and I'm like, "That's how I started." Like, when I was running the store, like, I consistently had 3 catalogs, and that was not including my reorders from Colcut,
Right.
which was the 4th company to deal with, and so it was just very funny, that everyone's now like, "Oh my God, it's such a change," and I'm like, "Hey, books are
We're
coming
just
out on
going back to
Tuesday."
we're
Yeah, I'm
going
like,
back to what worked before.
yeah, I'm like, you guys realize new comic book day was not Wednesday; it was Tuesday for like
I remember.
decades. And but
So
yeah,
besides showing your age,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
now are you doing this full time right now, or is this still
uh,
on the side?
it's still on the side, regardless of how well the company does as a whole. I'm always going to have a day job, because that way I'm never reliant on
Gotcha.
committed to pay my rent, because to me, in my brain, that's when you start to have resentments. That's when you talk to people and they're like, "Oh, I'm just doing this to turn a buck, and I'm going to do 15 variant covers because I don't care, and I'm just going to hire the hottest artists." And I'm like, no, I put a lot of heart and soul into every single project that we do, every single project that I select, and I have, I think, high standards for my own collection, and I try to convey that into the comics that we produce. I don't do the quick grab and the easy way out, so to speak. It's got to have a good story in addition to good artwork. It's got to have um, it's got to have an actual purpose to it.
Now, do you
You know.
take submissions from indie people and you review, and if you think it's something worth pushing, you do
Yeah.
that? Do you cover, like, what is your business model?
So the business model, pretty much originally when we started the company, and it hasn't really deviated that much from our original concept, me and Alex's original concept, was pretty much giving fans the opportunity to break into the business. So I'm also a huge history buff of comic books and stuff like that. And back in the early 70s, mid 70s, and if you wanted to get a job writing Batman or working on Legion of Superheroes, you literally just sent in a submission to Marvel DC. I mean, you
Right.
hear the story of Jim Shooter, 15 years old, mailing in the story and then buying it, and then at like 17, he's writing Legion of Superheroes, with permission from his mom. I mean, like that in the mid 90s disappeared entirely.
Right.
And if people remember, back in the mid 90s is also when people were just recycling the same creators. And again, I love certain creators, but the stories were the same, the artwork was the same. They were just doing, like almost kind of how homage covers now are just, people are just doing Amazing Spider-Man 300 covers. Every single publisher has a cover, and I'm like, do you guys not know how to lay out covers anymore? Have you forgotten?
Well, it's funny too, because covers now have become just pinups, and you're spending all this money on artists to do some 3/4 bust pinup.
Yep.
And look, don't get me wrong, some of them are beautiful and the artists are talented, but it's kind of It's kind of like you're paying top dollar. It's like buying a box of cereal and it's only half full. You know, it's. So you remember when
Absolutely.
covers had a lot going on and they told
Well,
you something and they
you
hooked
know,
you
I
in?
mean, yeah, I mean, again, going back to next week with the panic and the horror that is San Diego Comic-Con. They used to have a panel every year. I don't know if they're doing it this year. The art of the cover, and they explained that it's not a pretty picture. You have to be conveying something about the story inside of it. You have to give the reader a reason to stop on the shelf and look at it.
Yeah, but there's not very little composition now.
Yeah.
The composition is just what pose am I putting this hot chick in?
Yeah. Yeah. Or, I mean, again, very rarely do you ever see blurbs on the cover anymore, right? The blurbs
Right.
used to mean something,
Right.
There were times in the late 70s, early 80s at Marvel where the covers were done months before the books. So they had to figure a way to, how do I relate this to getting the interior of the book,
And that's why a lot of times the covers
didn't match all the time, but it was still good. It still told you a part of the story of why you should pick up the book. Like I remember the very famous when in Batman 66, right, when the television show was on, there's that cover of Robin going like, "Hey Batman, we got to go out and stop crime," and Batman's like, "Hold on a second, I'm on television right now." They have the Batman 66 logo on the TV. I'm sure that was done, had nothing to do with the interior of the story, but it was a good kind of milestone zeitgeist for the, for where the industry and where the comic fandom was at that time, So
well, I do think Image, as great as it was and brought excitement, etc., has a lot to do with why comics are failing to me now. These companies got scared after that. They don't want the writers and the artists to be the celebrities that push the book anymore. They want that IP to be.
yeah.
So, I mean, I think that they structure their contracts and they structure their page rates and they structure everything around that, and they're
slightly
outsourcing
different.
overseas.
Yep.
So that you don't know who those artists are because they're not doing conventions here in America.
Right, and then all they're doing is they're just paying top dollar to have Lightfield or
do a cover.
Right, Flavor of the Week come in to do a cover.
And then what they're doing is inflating their bad sales because you bought the same book four times because of the covers. Yeah. But that's eventually that balloon's gonna bust. And this is kind of like all the holofoil covers they did in the mid-90s.
Yeah, again, it was like I said, we were joking about, we thought the 90s were bad. It's like we're back in it, but the difference now, I think, is we're back in it, but with a twist. So I think the industry now, because of the collectors in the industry and the fact that the secondary market is a lot stronger with CGC and with grading, with slabbing, that certain amounts of those flash and pizzazz elements can still sustain. But I definitely think you're correct that it's not, probably maybe 60% of the flash and bang will sustain.
But again, and I agree with you, but the problem is that has now turned it into, instead of the reader fan, a collector investor fan.
Yeah.
Comics now is like everybody thinks it's going to be their retirement. And let me tell you, we can all slab the last big Venom issue from 10 years ago, but guess what? They're not rare anymore because everybody has one protected. The whole point is comics gain in value because they get lost, destroyed, and they become rare.
Right. It becomes the
but everything's
supply
in a
and demand factor.
Now. Everything's in a coffin now.
So
nothing is
That's a great mindset to have with the books. You literally are just killing it.
Yeah.
So
I mean, seriously, every and the print runs are all preserved.
Yeah. Which again, I mean, it's the same thing. I have an issue with the graders for a long period of time. I had issues with them, and the fact that they can sit there and say, like, when they came out and said, what was it? There was a Thor like 167 or something like that, where Thor's on the handle of the giant, sword, and it has all the Asgardians around him, and CGC came out and said that was a 10.0, and I'm like, that's virtually impossible. You cannot know out of the entire print run of books in the late 60s that's a perfect copy, that there's not a better one out there, or that it doesn't have defects. I mean, the Marvel chipping, which I've heard that they've actually, I mean, good example is Hulk 181. They're actually going to remove the grading criteria of the Marvel stamp inside of it when they give the
Really?
grade. Yeah, that's what I've heard, because so many of the books don't have it now. So it actually now becomes that's the standard opposed to the ones that have it. And
Well,
I'm like, Cathud. Like, what are we doing here?
and here's the thing: is now CGC is really dictating. Like Diamond became the
Oh yeah.
distributor that dictated everything.
Yep.
CGC has become the. I mean, I know we have CBCS and stuff, but
Yeah.
let's face it,
Yeah.
CGC is the
CGC.
dominating company, and they're dictating everything, what
Mhm.
the values are. And it's, again, it's kind of like oil and stocks. It's all a speculative market. I
Right.
mean, oh, Morbius went up because the movie comes out, and the movie
Right.
sucks, and now it goes right back down. But everybody bought it at that ridiculous level, and
Right.
now
So
it's
no
worth
one's
nothing.
yes. So no one, but it still has that inflated price point because everyone bought it at that higher number.
Right.
It's very similar to when I see stuff that has a Stanley autograph. And I'm like, okay, well, based upon how mushy the autograph is, I can tell you when they got it, and I can tell you the price point they paid for that. So I know that's their bottom line. So you're never going to find a Stanley autograph for under $130 starting price because they paid $120 to get it.
Right.
So is it actually worth $120?
Well,
Probably
how many
not.
people have a Stanley signature too?
Right.
I
It's
mean,
like every single person. And again, it's something great to have, and I'm sure people are super happy about it. And yeah,
but
I've got one too. But
that's another trend that's going on right now. If you notice, all the older statesmen of comics
mm-hmm.
are really busy at shows now because I think these vultures are like, oh, they're gonna die soon. Let me get something, and then they flip it. And it's kind of to me, it's kind of the ugly side of it. I mean,
definitely.
when Neil died, and now Tim Sale,
Yeah.
and of course George Perez, all of a sudden, everybody was getting signatures towards the end, and everybody's flipping them. Go on eBay and go everywhere, and it's just ridiculous. And then even Heritage is going nuts with stuff. I mean, just buy it because you want it. You will never see your investment be worth anything on new comics. No, I agree with you, Greg. I agree. But you know what? It's in the 90s it was the same thing. They bought Superman's death through the roof, thinking that this was going to be their retirement plan. And the print run was so high, it's a 50-cent book.
Which is hysterical because now the print prices, people are realizing how much they paid. You can't get a copy sealed in a black bag for under $30.
Really?
Yeah. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world. Every single person got it. And the best part is, and again, this is one of the things that mystifies me about CGC, and it just hurts my brain when I think about it. When they get those books to grade them, they take them out of the bag and they don't include the bag in the grade in the slab. And I'm like, that's the whole point of it. If you remove it from the bag, it's not the black bag version.
Well, let me ask
like,
you.
Hello.
And the other thing is, grading is a subjective thing. You can't quantify it. There's no algorithm.
You can do it to an extent.
I've seen books that were absolutely. I know they don't give 10s.
Right.
Brand new off the printer, high card stock, not a ding, not a bend. The spine's intact. Perfect book. It should have been a 9.9 out of 10, and they give it a 9.8. Or I've seen 9.8s get a 9.2, and 9.2s get a 9.8.
Yep.
You got to get the grader on a good day.
Pretty much, yeah. They have to hit that
monetary investment in the hands of someone who is sporadic.
Yeah. And again, there are certain elements you can quantify. Like that was one of the nice things about Overstreet's Owl setup with the thing, the paper quality, right? How white it is, how bright it is. Newsprint has a certain texture to it. When the book is cut, like we were just talking about with the Marvel chipping, right? Like there are certain elements you can quantify, but the more elements that you actually look at realistically, it ticks away at the potential grade. So in actuality, looking at those factors is a negative concept for CGC to do, because that means no book would be getting higher than a 9.2. That's pre-87.
But then you've also got the new industry things of pressing and
and I've gotten some of my books pressed. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna sit here and be like, I'm a purist all the way. I used to be, but then I was like, well, if I want to sell these things, if I want to sell these things, if I want to pass them on to my nephews or whatever, and give them a fighting chance of making some kind of money on it, I got to do something. So I've got some books pressed, but at the same time, you look at that and you go, is that restoration? Is it not restoration? And you know, I mean, in my mind, I still look at that as restoration.
I do too.
Does CGC? No. Is it going to work to my benefit? Yes. You know, like I hate to say it, but it's, you know, but at the same time, you know, majority of the books that I am getting slabbed out of my own collection, I have, you know, 4 copies. Like I literally just got my Mr. Miracle 16, you know, pressed and slabbed by CGC. I've got 37 copies of Mr. Miracle 16. Like,
wow.
Okay, yeah, why not? I'll get one of them slabbed. You know, I might actually send some more in, but you know, but yeah, I mean it. So I still try to make sure I can actually enjoy the books that I have, but ones that I have multiples of, which are mostly my collection, are just a ridiculous amount of multiples because I have issues. I have problems.
So,
I'm just saying.
So getting back to your business model.
Yeah, so nice little tangent there, but yeah, it was basically to give people the ability to become from fans into professionals. The original concept that we had for the company was let's get some professionals and mix them with a whole bunch of amateurs and put together a product and see what that becomes. To the point where our very first publication that we ever did, which was a book called Committed Comics Presents Threads, had a cover by Dick Ayers. So literally, you know, in 2000, I think it was by the time we got around to it, was like 2000, end of 2000. You know, Dick Ayers was a legend, you know, in the industry. I mean, hell, he was a legend back in like 78, let's be honest, you know? So, and it was a Western story. So I was like, all right, who am I going to get to draw this? Oh yeah, Dick Ayers did Ghost Rider, the original Boys and Girls, the original, which was in Western, you know, for years. And he did Toot Gun Kid after Kirby left. And, you know, so I contacted him because through the comic store that I worked at, he lived in the area. Ironically, the owner's father was neighbors with Dick Ayers or something like that. So he literally just put me in touch with him that way. You know, and then inside the book, all the writers and the artists and everybody inside, with the exception of the colorists for the book, were all amateurs. They had pretty much never worked in the industry before. So they got their first publication wrapped in a book that, you know, it's pretty much, you know, as close to Kirby as you can get working, you know, during that time frame. And so
what, like, where do you take submissions, and then what, you know, what are you looking for in those submissions, and then what do you do for those submissions?
So most of the submissions I get are either mailed in, and you can find all that information on committedcomics.com, scrolling along the bottom there, boys and girls. I have criteria up there, which is loosely based off of the old late 80s, early 90s Marvel criteria in terms of, like, you know, because I had a friend who worked at Marvel, and so he gave me their criteria guidelines. And so I was like, all right, this is actually really interesting. This makes a lot of sense. So essentially what I'm looking for in that realm, if you're just a penciler or just an inker or just a colorist, you know, single stage kind of deal, I'm looking, 3 biggest things probably for me to look for are consistency, commitment as a whole, right? So like whether or not you can actually, you know, turn the books in times. And then also, this is one of those weird things that people say, but like your own voice, right? So like if you're an inker, you know, I don't want you to just trace over the lines that the pencil lays down. You know, I want to see what ability you have. If you're a penciler and you're like, oh, I want to be the next Jim Lee. Well, I don't want to see you draw like Jim Lee. You know, I mean, that's a waste of my time, you know? I want to see, yeah, you can draw it with elements of Jim Lee, but then put your own spin on it. So that's kind of like the real simple mindset I have.
What about, you know, creator-owned IPs?
Creator-owned IPs, what I like to do is at least have, depending upon the setup of how it's actually done, I want to have, so if it's like a mini series, a 3-issue mini series, I want to have 1 issue done. So basically I want the creative team, no pun intended, to show me that they're committed to their own project, right? That they've gone ahead and they've done some of their own legwork. I consistently get contacted by writers that are like, hey, I've got this great idea and it's going to be the next Preacher and it's going to sell millions of copies. And I'm like, okay, do you have any concept sketches of the you know, the main character? No. Should I do that? Well, yeah, you should probably do that. Well, I've got it all fleshed out. I have his whole backstory fleshed out. That's great.
but nobody knows about anything.
You sat at a typewriter and did this for a couple of days. Like, and again, not minimizing what writers do. Writers get us. I explain this very clearly to people when I talk about portfolios and stuff. Artists get us to pick up the book. Writers get us to come back. There's no two ways about it.
That's what I said.
And so writers are just as vital as artists, even though a lot of times the public doesn't see them that way, but that's the way I see them. But at the same time, if you don't take some of your own time, even if you just get like, oh, well, I took this is kind of a cross between this book and this book and this book. And it's like, okay, well, at least you've now started to give me some visuals to that, even if you don't hire the artist to do that.
A writer has to understand that it's all in your head, and it only becomes a reality when it's an image that people can see. It's something tangible.
Right.
And that's what the artist makes it, is tangible. So I agree, concept designs are important.
Yeah.
Or at least that Netflix pitch to where you can get the visual, like, okay.
You have one picture drawn, even if it's just one. So a lot of times, I'll have people who approach me, with either very little or something very loose. The other thing which I also like to make sure that I have on that is like, do you have a clear direction for your story? So I had one guy contact me. I want to say it was a portfolio review at San Diego Comic-Con many years ago, about probably at this point 6 or 7 years ago. He came to me and he had a whole binder of stuff, and it was super detailed drafts of the characters and brief backstories on all the characters, and then like the first 3 issues scripted out with a whole bunch of stage direction, a whole bunch of direction for the artist. And then he got a concept guy to do like the cover for his pitch package. Didn't do any of the characters, which I thought was hysterical, but did a cover for the pitch package and everything like that. And I was like, okay, well, how do you see this going? I mean, it is intriguing. You did a lot of work. It's very interesting. What are you looking at? He goes, oh, well, I see this as the like a 7-issue series. Each graphic novel is about 100 pages. So I was like, so you're looking at almost 1,000-page series. He goes, yeah. And I'm like, what's your time frame? He's like, oh, well, it's probably like 2 years. And I'm like, the hell it is. Like, no. Like, Marvel wouldn't even touch that. IDW wouldn't even touch that. They wouldn't touch that from Frank Miller. Because that's unrealistic. That's ridiculous to basically say in 2 years you're going to do 1,000 pages.
Right.
It's not happening. Not happening. Or at least, let me rephrase that. Not happening with any kind of level of quality that someone will actually put money down for. So when someone comes with me to create their own series, I want them to have realistic expectations. I want them to basically be like, yeah, this is a 3-issue series. I'm going to leave it on a little bit of a cliffhanger. We'll wrap up enough in the story to where if we wanted to do more, we could. Like that. Okay.
Now,
I can work with that.
Now, would you for example, would you take an ongoing series from someone, or that you want them self-contained stories? Because that's what most small publishers do at this point. They just want the self-contained stories.
I take a page out of the very widely popular and brilliant Brian Pulido. So you basically do chunks of miniseries, and you basically have your continual theme keep going all the way through, but it can be digested in some type of single meal format. Gotcha. We are the new publisher for Nira X, who's a character that's been around for 30 some odd plus years at this point. And yes, Bill Mouse is very old. I just gotta get that little jab in there when he sees this, But yeah, I mean, he's with us, and we just wrapped up his first miniseries with Committed, and we're starting on the second miniseries, and that's how we're gonna do it. It's the same character, it's the same story, but each little different arc is again a way that he can work on it and not kill himself, which is kind of important. And it also gives me the time and resources to be able to pull together to where I have something to produce, because like you said, people want the IPs of certain things, it makes it a little bit easier.
Now, do you have distribution, or do you just go through Kickstarter campaigns?
We do. We had a combination of conventions, Kickstarter campaigns. I have some agreements with some stores around the country that I've communicated with. We were in Diamond very early on in the company's history, and then when I took a couple of years off to restructure the company, That's when Diamond, was pretty much like, oh, if you're going to come back to us, you have to resubmit. And again, at this point, they were still the only game in town. So I resubmitted, I sent them the package literally 4 times to 4 different reps. Every single time.
Diamond, you'll have a lot of different.
Yeah, every single time, nobody ever said that they got it. I'm convinced they kept losing my package in the office. To the point where I finally called head of purchasing.
Been in disarray lately.
Called the head of purchasing, and who I have his business card. We've had drinks at San Diego. We've and I called him up and I'm like, hey, what's going on with this? I said I've sent in stuff numerous times and no one's ever gotten back to me. You guys came to me at San Diego, stopped by my booth, and said that looks interesting. Can't wait to see that come across my desk. Nothing. And he was like, well, you know what? I don't really think we're looking at anything in the 90s resurgence era. Okay. Anybody else see the irony of that? And granted, this was probably, I want to say, because again, I have to keep on like adjusting my time frame since we lost 3 years, So this was probably about 6, maybe 7 years ago now, right?
Yeah, I'm sure they'll be happy to take you right now.
That's kind of what it is. And so I'm kind of like, well, do I want to do it now? Do I want to do it? So I'm kind of like, yeah, I probably will send another thing in. I'm probably going to go talk to them at San Diego, see what reps are still employed by them, and maybe take it from that point, because this much as like I'm sure a lot of your fans know this, Phil. It's like you get a whole much more done face to face opposed to email and or phone call.
Well, again,
right?
First of all, you can sell better with the passion in your voice, your
right,
body language. Second of all, I don't care what anybody says. Whether they like you or not is always going to have a factor.
Absolutely.
If they like the way they conduct yourself, because you can get a vibe off a person. This person's committed. They have a good business mind. They understand what the industry is. Much better through personal face-to-face contact than you can through text.
Yeah, absolutely. And so because we haven't had large-scale shows for a long period of time, I was kind of like, I'm not really pushing it. I'll go to shows. I'll sell the books. We'll do pretty good. With the 2 Kickstarters that we did for Nearer, we did exceptionally well, much better than I thought we would. So I was happy with those. He also has some of the Zen books, which mind you, Zen is coming back, not from us, from First Publishing. Zen is going to be making a comeback with Bill attached to it. So there's a little extra plug for Bill there, that I get no benefits out of. I'm just saying. If anything, it's going to screw up it. If anything, it's going to screw up his timeline more because he's going to be more inundated with the Zen book, and I'm sure it's going to knock my schedule off track. But he's a good friend of mine. So
and that's the thing people don't understand when you're a publisher, even small level like myself. You have time frames, and you're trying to manage and juggle all these things, and you have time frames. And here's the thing: you're hurting cats. Yeah, because you got
drunk cats. You're hurting drunk cats.
You got to get the penciler, the inker, and the colorist, and the letterer, and you got to get them all to get their jobs done on time, so that the next guy isn't held up, or the next woman isn't held up. And you've got editing that goes on throughout the whole process, editing the script. Editing the pages, editing the letters,
and just breaking it all down that way. And that's one of the things that a lot of the people who come to me with their completed series or pseudo completed series, they're like, well, when is this going to get printed? And I'm like, I've got like 3 books on my lineup right now that I'm still working on. So yours is the 4th. Have a nice day. If you can't continue to work on it. I use this analogy a lot to a lot of people when I do portfolio reviews, which I'll be doing in San Diego this weekend or next week. I'm like, if you're not willing to work on the book without a publisher, I'm not taking you. Because that means the only thing that's driving you to actually create is your end result. The end result should be your creation. That should be your creation. That should be your motivation to do it, is because you have this story, this concept, this image in your head you have to get out. Right. If that's too much for people, go become a real estate investment. Go become a dog walker.
That passion, exactly. Yeah. Well, passion tempered with knowledge.
Yep.
Of the industry. I agree.
And again, that's where I come in. That's where I help a lot of these people out who work with us, is because I have a lot of knowledge. I have a lot of passion. I can kind of guide them. And I'm very happy that the people who have worked with us, kind of our alumni, if you want to use that term, right, are widely successful in the comic book industry. And
Right.
and by no means am I taking full credit. I believe every single one of them would be at the heights they're at without ever meeting me. But
Right.
I can't also ignore the fact that I helped nudge them in certain directions
Hey,
with
it
certain
could be your
things.
Irish luck.
Exactly. So I mean, we in that first publication, Threads, that I was talking about was the first sequential artwork by Dustin Weaver. Who's he's worked on a couple small books, like X-Men, Godzilla, some small properties, doing his own creator series, or actually I think it's over now, but he's Packless over at Image, and then I know he was doing a whole bunch of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff with IDW, but it's like, I mean, he had his first sequential work with us. Another person who worked with us very early on in their career was Camilla D'Erico. Camilla's pop culture sensation everywhere now. She's worked with Neil Gaiman. She's worked with Mark Millar. She's worked with, Dark Horse did an art book with her just recently. And then one of the other people was, Philip Sablick. Philip did some pencils in one of our books, and he's just running Boom Entertainment now. That's no big deal.
All right, cool. Yeah, right.
just a little bit of work,
Well, speaking of which, as we're talking about your publishing company, you have a Kickstarter campaign going on right now.
I do.
And
yes.
I want to put it up and show it.
Cool.
Okay, now as pretty as we are, I think we should show this more.
Show it full screen, yeah.
I'm going to show the trailer first, and then we're going to talk about it.
Cool.
All right, let's do it. Wow, those women really don't look good in the morning.
Yeah, she's a little rough, that one.
Yeah. So we've got Freak Meter, and it is collected the 3 issues in one volume. And you do something cool as far as the cover, which you and I talked about. I like. Before we get into that, right now you had $764 of a $1,700 goal, 23 backers, and 16 days to go. So I want to remind everybody, as you're watching this show, if you like what you see, back this project by hitting the green. Or if you're concerned, just hit remind me, and I'll give you a 48-hour notice. Just remember, they don't collect your money until the campaign is over, so don't worry about that. As long as you're gonna have as long as you know you're gonna have the money in time, there's no reason why you can't back and pledge now.
Or share it out to people you know.
And that's what I was gonna say. You can share it out. Just mention it to others. Let them know about this show. Whatever you can do, exposure is key. So, tell us about the story. Of course, as far as you want to go without spoilers.
Yeah, so the story is pretty much about the character of Luke Bonchance. He's pretty much a down on his luck style type guy, but it's all because he's an asshole and he makes really bad decisions. And so it's he has like the world's worst luck, but it's all of his own making. Right. So because of that, he's constantly trying to dodge people and things and get himself out of trouble. He then picks up a hitchhiker named Maggie, and drives her to the store, goes in, then basically finds out that she's been dead for 30 years kind of deal, and he gave a ride to a ghost. And so he thinks nothing of it, goes home, and then the next day she is in his hotel room and he's trying to figure out why. And then it turns out that she's bound to him to kind of make him less of an asshole. She's kind of his Jiminy Cricket.
I know a few people that use that ghost.
Yeah, exactly. He's kind of his Jiminy Cricket. But he's the only one, of course, who can see her. He's the only one who can interact with her. The only way that she can actually have any contact is through his jacket. She can wear his jacket for some reason or another. And so that's just kind of it. It's kind of like this weird supernatural road trip story. And each issue kind of just focuses on a different strange element in their strange and bizarre lives. And so we have the 3-issue miniseries that was printed back in 2017-18. Sold out numerous printings, so I was super happy about that. And then it's got a new story which kind of expands on their whole road trip mentality and kind of goes into other areas and other weird, funky things that they have encountered with their time together. So yeah, so I mean, this is the sea witch that she runs into. So.
And who's your team? Tell us about your team on this.
So the author is a gentleman by the name of Bo Duranzer. Bo is pretty much, I met him years and years ago. He actually worked at the Kinko's, FedEx Kinko's, that I used to go in and use their internet back when I started Committed and use their printers and copiers and that kind of stuff. And he was a screenwriter, novelist, musician, super talented guy. And he was like, yeah, I'll write funny books. I enjoy them. So he wrote one of the other graphic novels that we did called Jackrabbit, which was a parody graphic novel making fun of all of the really bad tropes and kind of stereotypes in comic books. Literally everything you can possibly think of, he pokes fun at. And then he kind of wanted to tell a little bit more serious, for lack of a better term. You know, it wasn't quite parody book, but it was kind of this road trip mentality. And so he had Freak Meter in his head. So he's like, hey, I'm going to write this. And I'm like, all right, you know, I'll find you an artist for it. Because we had success with Jackrabbit. And I came across Alfredo at a San Diego Comic-Con portfolio review. He's out of Mexico City. And he was at the con for the weekend. And he had done a couple things in Mexico for a couple of publishers. He came on board. He really liked the story. He thought it was really interesting and strange. And so he just dove in head first. And he did a great job. And actually, each issue, he started taking on more and more. In the first issue, he literally just did the pencils. Somebody else inked it. The second issue, he did a little bit more of the pencils, a little bit more refined. And then, like, the last issue, he actually lettered it. Like, he put in temp letters and that kind of stuff. And so again, just showing that he was, you know, all in. He was very excited about this project as well, you know. And
very cool.
Yeah, so the first issue was actually colored by Alana, I can't pronounce her name, Alana Lemire, who is now a Magic the Gathering card artist, and she does like almost all of the land and the fancy cards. She's amazing. Cool. Amazing digital painter, which is very funny because she did the colors on the first issue just out of nowhere, you know. Yeah, that's one of the nice things about that Alfredo's art. It just got cleaner and better as the series went on. So,
what's up, Jim? Jim's a great artist. If you ever need, you should check him out.
Nice, good to know.
Tony Cordos, I know very well.
Yep, Tony, inker extraordinaire, creator.
We've got Envu.
Yep. Oh, and the person who colored Tony's piece actually is Luis Delgado, who just came off of a small book called The Last Ronin.
Nice. Yeah.
So yeah, cool. Luis did a couple pieces for me, projects back in the day, and I was kind of like, "Hey, do you got time in your schedule?" He's like, "Ironically, I just wrapped up this, and I don't start this." so he was able to put that in there for me.
Very cool.
Yep.
And Envu with Raul Hernandez.
Yep, Raul did colors and inking on another one of our books, Miss Miniver. And so I have a great working relationship with him. Super nice guy. And then artist and creator extraordinaire Kaylin Smith. She did Plume, For Goodness Sake. She's done tons of indie publisher.
Very cool.
Covers and books and stuff like that. So yeah.
Now this book is 8x11, so it's a larger book than a regular comic. And you did something cool with the covers. You want to tell us what you did with that?
Yeah, so since it's going to be a hardcover collection, and instead of actually doing 5 or 6 different print runs with each of the different cover artists, like on Kit Steele and Tony, we did dust jackets that will wrap around. It'll go inside the front cover. It'll have a front cover fold with, you know, explanation of the story, and then it'll have a full creator bio, cover artist. So hey, Christy.
Hey, Christy.
What up, monkey? And so that way, again, you get a very cool hardcover book, but you also get a variety of different artwork, because to do 5 print runs of 100+ page hardcover book is financially ridiculous. So,
Right.
But yeah, it was just
Very
an
cool.
interesting way to do it. So basically, since it is a dust jacket, it'll be virgin covers on the front, so it'll be all artwork. There'll be no trade dress. The trade dress will be on the back. So that way you actually get the full artwork piece from each artist, which I like.
Yeah, like Kenny said, like the old school book jackets. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it's just, and again, if you, it's kind of funny because people were like, well, how are you going to put it in a bag since it's larger? And I'm like, well, you can use an 11x17 bag or an 11x14 bag, or you can also just go to any bookstore and get dust jacket. They have protective covers for dust jackets, which it's a piece of almost like My Light that you just
put
hold around the
books
front
on your shelf, right?
Yeah.
So put a book on your shelf. There you
Yeah.
go. It's a hardcover, so
yeah, and so
let's talk
as
about
of
some of the. Sorry,
right now, well, I was gonna say, as of right now, I think it's totally at 116 pages. So
nice.
Yeah.
So let's go over the tiers. Show people what they are going to be pledging on, or I'm going to go toilet paper their house tonight.
Right. Yeah. There you go. So
just so you know, if it's not your thing, but you want to support, you can pledge without a reward. It could be anything: $1, $5, $10, and don't think that any amount of money is too little. It all helps.
Everything helps. Yeah.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
So then we got the standard digital edition, which is just the regular one. It comes with a regular cover. And again, it's going to be a PDF. It's going to be not quite print quality, but close to it. I think I'm sitting at a 200 DPI for it instead of a 300 or 350 for print quality.
Well, you have to be careful of that.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've already had some of our other digital items show up on those terribly nefarious sites. So then we also have the digital deluxe edition, which you get to pick your cover essentially. So this one would actually be, the cover. You also still get the other one. You get it as a pinup, further down in your digital edition. You get both. And then we're actually doing this, and hopefully we can pledge enough and fund enough to where I'm going to do it in Spanish as well. I've already got a translator on board to translate the book, because half the creative team is actually in Mexico City. So I was kind of like, hey, why not do it a little bit cooler and do it in Spanish?
Very cool.
So yeah, you get the digital edition, regular, as well as, deluxe. You get to pick out your cover kind of deal. And then we actually get to the actual hardcover, standard hardcover, which you get your standard dust jacket. So even the regular cover is going to be a dust jacket. So I've already got a cool graphics design, very similar to the first issue, which is that image on the left-hand side of the image on the screen, which is then by the on the left-hand side. Yep, that one right there. It's going to be similar to that, where it's kind of going to be a map, kind of like what you wish you were here type mentality. Right. But that's going to be the actual hardcover itself, and then all the cover images are going to be the dust jacket. So even the regular edition, you get a dust jacket. So you'll actually be getting a dust jacket with the hardcover, and then you get to actually pick what dust jackets you want as you go further down. And then we also have add-ons with the dust jackets as well. So.
And just to remind everybody, the $25 is a steal of a price, because you're getting how many? 100 and what pages?
116 right now. I've reached out to Alfredo. He was just posting something recently that he had done the entire third issue in black and white. He'd done his own print version so he could see how it was going to look before colors and before all that stuff. And so he's sending me some of those pages. So you'll get some of the pages in black and white. We've got sketches. We've got, again, the new story, which is about 6 pages of new stuff, new content. But yeah, it's going to be a significantly big book,
Very cool. And $25 is not a lot of money for that.
No, yeah, I thought about going higher, and I was just kind of like, well, no one really knows this. It's going to be a hard enough sell at 25, but I have a feeling when people get the book, they're going to be impressed with the quality of it, of the interior, the artwork, and the story, and then also just the physical package that it's a part of.
Right.
So
what else do we have here? Again, Spanish version of the hardcover physical.
Yep.
You've
Yep, and
got the
then
Tony Cordos Dust Jacket edition.
yep. So it's only $10 more, and then you can literally do it's $10 for each of the Dust Jacket add-ons. So that way you can actually, if you do want all, what's that, 4 covers, 4 dust jackets, you can,
And then you have the Spanish versions as well.
and then the Spanish versions, yeah. So it seems like there's a whole lot more than it really is, but it was mostly because of the fact that I haven't figured out a way on Kickstarter to do the drop down selection, which edition you wanted, and I wanted to track how many of each I was selling.
It's really one of the poorest systems they could do, but you have to enter everything as a reward and then re-enter everything again as an
Yeah.
add-on, so it's available.
Yep.
And people don't understand, it's not their fault. You can't select several pledges. You have to pick one and then go to the add-on, and
To
you
do
have
the
to make
add-ons.
sure it's something that is an add-on. Like
Yeah.
if you have original art and it's a one of a kind, that has to be their pledge,
Right.
and then the
Yeah.
book has to be the add-on. Otherwise, you're not, because I
Yeah.
can't do a single
You can't
item
do
as
it.
an add-on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so Kickstarter's got to work some, and it's also hard for us to, when you get the add-ons, to get an order report.
yeah, I mean, it's I'm still struggling. So on our last Kickstarter campaign for Nira X, we had a ton of add-ons, and I'm trying to wade through that spreadsheet, and it's like 700 columns wide. It's just
Yeah,
hurting my
I know.
brain every single time, and I'm like, oh my god, what am I doing? So with this one, I was a little more concise and condensed, so that way on the back end, I didn't go completely insane.
Well, look, this it sounds like a fun, interesting story. I mean, I think we can all relate on some level to either being a jerk once in a while or at least knowing one.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me get us.
Yep.
And honestly, we have to really support the indie community. If there's no money in this community, if there's no economy in this community, you can't get high quality products. If you're tired of the way Marvel and DC are writing stuff, or even whatever the companies are, and you want to support fresh, new, passionate ideas, you have to put your money where your mouth is, because these things
Absolutely.
cost a lot to create, and being a publisher is a lot of invested capital, because he's putting up the print runs and he's putting up all the stuff for these people, so he's putting his neck out. It's an investment.
Yeah, actually, when I get submission packets, or I talk to people, at portfolio reviews, if you have an independent book and I decide to take you on, to the committed family, I'm putting a minimum $3,000 to $5,000 investment into you right away.
Right.
So it becomes, and that's before you even get a piece of artwork done, just in promotion and time.
And he's got 5 illegitimate kids to feed.
I know, right? It's crazy. I don't know where they are though. That's the beauty about being illegitimate. I don't know where they.
Exactly.
I don't need to worry about where they are. It's the Irish way.
Oh snap!
So, but
well, look, I'm really fascinated by what you're doing with the publishing company. I think it's fantastic that you're doing this. I think your project was fantastic, and you have other projects that we kind of showed there that look fantastic. You all should go to committedcomics.com, check out what they have, buy, and I'm not doing Britney Spears here or whatever they are, whatever the boy band or whatever.
I think that's in sync, wasn't that in sync?
In sync, okay, whatever. I don't know, because I liked rock and roll, and anyway, so you really go check it out. At the very least, go take a look and share it out to friends. And the same with this Kickstarter. All you have to do is hit that green button, back this project, or remind me if you want a 48-hour notice. Share it out. Tell everybody about it. Tom is working very hard, not only for himself and his publishing company, but for the people that he's representing here. The people he's publishing, making their dreams come true. And it all starts and ends with the fans.
Yep, that's pretty much why I do it too. I mean, it's literally so I can walk into a store and see books that I've contributed to on the shelf. I mean, that's bad stories and bad artwork.
And think about that. Think about that. When you support a creator, you're also providing jobs for others and helping them live their dreams. The artists, the inkers, the pencilers, the editors, the writers, the colorists, all of them,
Yeah.
everybody. And then you're in the printing companies. It's just this. That's how the economy flows. That's how capitalism works, right? And everybody gets a job through this. And the more money we invest into this indie community, the greater this community is going to produce for you.
Yeah.
And you will have alternatives instead of being crammed down your throat, this or this, this or
Right.
this. Well, they both
Hmm.
suck. I don't want
Yeah.
this.
That's
You
definitely
know?
true. And again, people sit there and say like, "Oh, well, I'm so tired of every book being Deadpool." I get that. I totally understand. And
And
then I show
Harley
them
Quinn, yeah.
something, yeah, and then I show them an independent book, and they're like, "Oh, I don't know that." I'm like, "This could be the next Deadpool. This could be your next favorite comic book. You don't know that."
And that's the thing is, we're not. We think we're selling the book, the IP. We're not. We're
Mm-mm.
selling trust.
Yeah,
Trust in me that I'm going to give you a quality book.
yeah, that's definitely true. And again, that's what I like. I said, I have fairly high standards myself that I put onto my creative teams. And it's actually paid off. I mean, I was at Planet Comic Con a couple months ago, and someone came by and they're like, "Oh my God, thank God you're here. I saw you last year, but I couldn't get back to your table. What do you got?" Because I walked by last year and saw a whole bunch of good stuff. And I was like, "Oh, well, this is, I have this, I have this, I have this." And they're like, "Cool, I'll take that. And it was really nice because it was like, okay, yeah, they understood, like, hey, I like that stuff. And it resonated enough in their brain to be like,
Sure.
hey, I want the next thing. So when I go to Planet Comic Con, 2023, and I have the nice hardcover of Freak Meter, that girl's gonna be super happy because she's gonna be able to pick up another awesome book that's gonna give her hours of entertainment or minutes, depending on how quick or slow you read. I don't
It
know.
depends on how long you're on the toilet, right? I
Right,
read
exactly.
comics
Yeah.
while I'm on the toilet. um, so you have an appearance next weekend. I actually hope to meet you there.
Yes, come on
You'll be at
by.
San Diego Comic Con. You have a
Yep,
booth.
I do. I will be in small press L09, which is closer to UCC distributing. So people who are down at the show, the UCC has a ginormous booth, and they have a ton of products, and so we're going to be close to them in the small press section, which is the way they funnel everyone through. At least in the past, they funneled everybody through the floor through small press, which I've always appreciated. So that way, you have 140,000 people running by and seeing your booth for 6 minutes it takes to get to Funko. But and then I'll
my
also
first time at San Diego.
Oh, really?
So.
Nice. Yeah, and so I'll also be doing portfolio reviews under the sales upstairs. I'll be doing them on Thursday, Friday, and Sunday. You can go on to our Instagram, which is Committed EIC, Committed Editor in Chief, to get the schedule. My website is in transition. I'm shifting from one web company to another company. So I haven't actually gotten the updates to them because I've been busy with this Kickstarter and working on San Diego. And I kind of now regret that. I'm like, oh, I probably should have put the schedule up on stuff before I went. No. So yeah. But we will be down at L09. So Phil, definitely come by.
Oh yeah,
And
I
say
plan to.
hello. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, my Irish brethren.
There you go.
Two questions, two
Sure.
things. After San Diego, what's your next con appearance? So they can see.
So after San Diego, which is I take like a week to recuperate and regenerate and rejuvenate
I
and
won't
become
have
back
one.
alive.
2 days later, I go to Terrificon.
Oh my God, I love Terrificon though. That show is so much fun, so much fun.
Yeah.
I did terrible in sales, but I had such a fun time. That's the beauty. Like that's like I'm already gonna be going to half these shows as it stands, So I'm like, well, I'll bring a booth. I'll get a booth and have make a couple sales and get a couple more products out there. But no, after San Diego, I've got Emerald City in Seattle, which is my home show.
Nice.
So that'll be horrifically terrible
They never
because
got
I
back to
will.
me.
Yeah, that show's gonna be great and terrible all at the same time because when you're home, you have the stress of doing everything at home in addition to doing the show. Whereas when I go to like San Diego, I'm like, oh, I can't take the garbage out. Sorry, I'm not home. Oh, I can't come into work. I can't take a phone call. Sorry, And then after that, I have Salt Lake in September, and then I've got a local show in a local show in Washington area in October. It's just a 1-day show. So
Very cool.
and then I'm possibly done. I was talking to somebody about a show in November. I can't remember which one it was, but I might do one then. I don't know. I usually try to do a show every other month, but because of COVID, everything got pushed right up against each other.
Right.
And drove me bonkers. So now I have a show every month until the end of the year because that's the way I want to do this with my day jobs too.
So before we go,
Yep.
Give us a pitch. Why do we want to back the campaign for Freak Meter?
Why do we want to back the campaign for Freak Meter? Because one, it's an entertaining story. That's number one. And the artwork's incredible. Two, like you said, you're pretty much helping people create dreams and create an industry. And that's really important. And at the same time, I mean, there's nothing that I don't put out that I won't stand behind 100%. You know, money back guarantee type of thing.
Guys, he puts out a lot.
Like every single project that I've ever done, if people have ever, and it never happened, but if someone's literally come to me and give me a legitimate reason of why they didn't like X, Y, and Z, I would hand them money back because I know it's never happened. And it won't, because I won't let a subpar product leave my editing desk. It's not going to happen. You know, everything that we do is super committed, you know, and that's one of the reasons why we named the company that, is because we have to basically show that, you know, yeah, one, we're crazy. Yeah, we're completely crazy. And two, you know, we're going to push good product. And you know, all the books that we do, they're for comic fans. They're for comic readers. They're for fans of artwork. They're for fans of storytelling. They're not fans of throwing a book in a slab, you know. Right. Again, nothing against those people. You know, they make the 52 variant covers at Marvel sell very well, you know. But I'd much rather have 3 people buy the book, read it, and come back the next day and say that was great, or that was terrible, and here's why. And you know, and thankfully, no one said that was terrible.
Look, it's a win-win, right? Because either you love the story, or you don't have to buy toilet paper for a week.
There you go, right? So you know. If I ever go back to newsprint, that's literally going to be the tagline on the bottom. It's, you know, it's just because
I'll take the dust jacket idea, and you can take that tagline.
There you go.
If you're ever looking for artists, I represent some, and a couple of them are here: Rod Ramos and Will Play, and they're amazing. Kenny Calderon, they're amazing artists.
Nice.
Will does like amazing painted stuff. But here's to great success at San Diego Comic-Con. Indie companies assemble. Yes. Listen, just remember, there was a time where Marvel wasn't Marvel.
Yep.
They were Time, and they were floundering. They were about to go down before Stan Lee got them back up. So, you know, every great company has its beginning. Are you jumping on board at the beginning, or are you going to have hindsight that kicks you in the ass?
That's right. Yep. And trust me, there's definitely way more people with the hindsight kicking themselves in the ass on many early companies like Image.
I agree. Artists, companies, writers, books, exactly.
Yep.
And
all because they didn't want to take a chance. So.
And it's not even that expensive a chance. I mean, how much money you waste on a Happy Meal these days, and all you're doing is getting clogged arteries, or $8 for a cup of coffee at Starbucks and they spell your name wrong, or you just spent tons of money on a movie that sucked, or at least wasn't worth $25 plus with popcorn and everything. I mean, come on, guys. You know, I mean,
no brainer.
Give it a shot. What's the worst that happens? You say, okay, I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Give it a shot.
There you go.
You're taking a chance every week that you pick up a Marvel or DC book, because man, do they suck.
That it literally, first off, it was rolling the dice on the story. Then it was rolling dice on the artwork. Now it's rolling dice on paper quality, for God's sake.
Yeah. It's like tissue.
Come on.
It's like toilet paper. I know.
It's like you can't, you know, it's like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let any book ever get to that level. Why? Because I'm not dumb.
Look, I get it. There was a time where indie comics really looked indie.
Yeah.
I get it. But I don't know if you've been paying attention, people. Indie comics is incorporating mainstream people now.
Yep.
You know, mainstream artists and writers are coming to the indie world. The quality is so much better. Is it to say that every book is a knockout of the park winner? No, there are some that, okay, you know, I get it. But there are a lot of quality books. And the ones that aren't might very well have been if they had the money. So all I'm saying is, It's not a bad investment at all. It's not a bad investment. I'm about
So,
to go see Love and Thunder. Are you saying I'm throwing away 575 away? I haven't
all right,
seen it
all
yet,
right.
so I don't know. I'm hearing.
First off, if you're only spending $5.75, how the hell is that working?
I
Okay,
know,
did you
right?
go in a time machine and go back to '87 for a movie ticket? And
Chris, well, if you don't know, Chris, he sneaks in. He sneaks in from
there you go.
and he
That's a good
just
way to
throw
do
he
it.
just tip he just throws the kid at the ticket. Then here's 575. Turn a blind eye. But no, I haven't seen it yet. I hear it's good by some people. Most people are telling me it's garbage. I hear
Uh,
that.
it, it, it,
Unfortunately, they're
it, it
making
was
them
a
come
Marvel
out
movie.
again.
It was a Marvel
Well,
movie. That's the only thing I'm gonna say.
for me,
It's
Ragnarok would have been a really, really good movie if they didn't make him a clown and Hulk a baby. But
that was my takeaway with that too. And I always find that I'm in the minority on that one. But it's interesting because the same issues I had with Ragnarok, people have with Love and Thunder, and
I
it
heard he's
seems
even
that
more of a clown in
everybody,
Love and
yeah,
Thunder.
everybody seems to be okay with it this time around. So I don't know. Again, I've talked
Yeah,
to some people; they really enjoy it. There were some elements I really liked about it. There were some elements that I was kind of like, huh.
oh,
But overall,
Love and
yeah,
Thunder?
yeah, I saw it, and
I
again,
didn't see it
overall,
yet.
it's a Marvel movie. I mean, Kevin Feige's got a formula; they're not deviating from that formula, and yeah, though I will say that Natalie Portman did a lot better job than her past PR with Marvel would have led you to believe, because she was
Right.
not favorable of the Marvel Cinematic Universe teams back in the day, but she did a great job. So.
Cool.
Plus, she's nice to look at. So, yeah.
Craig said they're out to neuter all the male characters.
That's a totally different podcast there,
Yeah,
Greg.
I'm not even getting into that right now. What I will say though is, what's not giving you any politics? You know what's not giving you social programming? You know what's not on a soapbox and using a megaphone? Do you know what's not neutering any males or females or anything like that? Committed Comics with
Yep.
Tom,
There you
because
go.
they want to give you the commitment of a great comic. I always say, if you know what a writer's thoughts are on a social situation or political, they have failed you as a writer. It is not your megaphone or your pulpit. It's a freaking story. Shut up and tell the story and entertain me. Dance, monkey, dance.
Woo!
Well, on that note,
Yes.
Tom, man, it was good to meet you. Thanks for reaching out
Yeah.
to me. I wish you the greatest of success. I don't see that backer number going up. Whose house am I toilet papering?
I don't
I'm
know.
not even a flaming bag of poop, guys. Come on. If you can spend 575 at the Cinemark, you can spend some money on a new book.
Just saying. Just saying.
He's got
Um,
5 illegitimate kids to feed, guys. Come on, Happy Meals are
right.
expensive. Clothes are
you know.
expensive.
So we
His
got to
wife
clog those
beaters
arteries
cost
somehow.
his wife beaters cost a lot of money. Those Hanes packs, they're high in
That's
price
right. Yeah,
now.
they cut it down. They're going from 4 to 3 in the pack now. I mean, what am I going to do? It's tragic. Tragic, I tell you. So,
Tom, I
but
wish you the greatest of success. You're welcome to share to my page on Facebook anytime. If you want me to post ever, promote, I'm happy to. Just talk to me in DM. Share this out, guys. Let's talk to people. Let's let them know. Share this video out too, please. All right?
awesome. Thank you very much, Phil. I will see you next week.
Yeah,
And
man.
the ridiculousness that is San Diego Comic-Con.
I'll wear
Oh
something
dear
gray.
Lord. All right, sir.
Be good.
Talk to you later. Bye.
So that was Tom Doherty of Committed Comics. Okay, when you have to understand, it's hard enough to put out your own book, but when you're a publisher, you are investing a lot in other people's dreams. So please remember that. All right, he's putting a lot of his hard-earned money out there to help these people get out there. That's what a publisher does, and he doesn't have the backing that big publishers do. So give him that backing. Be that backing. Okay. Let's help each other be a community. Having said that, I want to remind you of a few quick things. Of course, I never pull these up. That would be smart, but I didn't. There we go. Oh, hang on. Oh, so you know this is so unprofessional, but whatever. I'm unprofessional. Who gives a crap? We have Chuck Dixon on Friday. If you don't know who he is, get out of the closet. It's a small, tiny place. Chuck is one of my favorite comic book writers. He's a really cool dude. We had him on once before. Actually, the last time he had a storm at his house, and it was pretty bad. But hopefully we clear skies and we'll be back. So Friday night at 8 p.m., episode 130, I get to sit down and talk with Chuck Dixon and a really, really cool looking indie book that he wrote and is going out right now on a campaign. I also want to remind you. Let me find this graphic because I was so prepared. Sorry about that, peoples. Hello, where are you? Why are you slow when I need you to be quick? Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Oh, perfect. It was the first thing. All right. Look at this. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, my boys, Rodimus Prime Rodolfo, and Where There's a Will, There's a Way Playden, will be drawing live. Give us some suggestions of what to draw, and those will be on pieces for sale. And as you know, we have a blast. We sit and we talk, we joke, we talk comics, we talk geekdom, we talk about how amazing I am and how lucky they are to work with me as an agent. And they draw some pretty cool stuff. So come out tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or we will find you. And remember to go back that campaign we discussed today, because if you don't, we will find you. Okay? Go to committedcomics.com for more products from this publishing company and help Tom feed his 5 illegitimate children. All right. I will also be at San Diego Comic-Con next week. I have a panel on Thursday from 4 to 5 p.m. I cannot announce what the panel is yet, but soon. Okay? It's going to be really cool. So I'm going to leave you with what I always leave you with. Be legendary and have fun storming the castle.